Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and I'm coming to you live on my phone at Wildwood, New Jersey. I've been here for a week, and it's just been so lovely. It's a great Monday morning. I think everybody should go out and enjoy the weekends, the week, the sunny times that we have in the summer. That's all I can really say. Trying to endorse people just go out and enjoy the earth, whether it's the ocean, beaches, even just the boardwalk. That's all just good. Hiking, nature walks, skydiving, whatever. I think that's all really good. People should go enjoy that while we can here on this earth. We only have one. So it's all one big ocean, and we're trying to all just keep it safe, keep it clean. I think that's all really, really what we want. And, we have some video game things to talk about here, That's what I think we should really dive into here. So, Xbox has reportedly gotten into a few more layoffs in the year. It's probably their fourth or fifth batch of layoffs, I believe, which is pretty upsetting. I feel like maybe with their current, heading with their system, it's not really looking too good. I don't really feel like the catalog really warrants, an Xbox system for anybody, right? Because PC, right? Game Pass and PC, that's where it's at. Not that a console isn't bad or affordable. I have a Series S, but I only use that for Xbox for the Oblivion remaster on the Xbox. That was just it. I played Expedition 33 on my PC. That was really just it. Those were the two games that we played on the Xbox so far. I think that was basically just it. And those layoffs are pretty sad. So I hope that anybody there gets a nice cushy job somewhere that they can be comfortable at, make a decent living for themselves and not feel burnt out or feel like they're not working on a good project or start something on their own, an individual thing. We see that all the time. It's just the age to do that now, and I think that there's people with the skills and the talent to do it. That's what I think. So hopefully they can get out there and make some games. That's really just what we want, is everybody out there making stuff. So, hopefully those people get some jobs. That's really just it. Now, apparently a Fortnite player was caught cheating and forced to repay more money in just the lawsuits than they won in the tournament. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I'll definitely try to put these links in the article specifically. So I'm not really going to go in too deep into those. I got a real specific game that I want to talk about here coming up. But something else I'm going to try and score is that there's the IGN Review Score T-shirt on their website. I really want to score those, specifically just the 1 in 10. I feel like they've had those before. Maybe another website had them at some point, but yeah, that's basically just. Yeah, I think that's very funny. Those funny little shirts, and I want it. I want that. I want to be able to wear like a one scored IGN review shirt. That's really hilarious. And really, just the last bit of article news, which really really personal to me, is new Dave the Diver DLC. It's called Into the Jungle. I'm stoked for that. I'm beyond stoked for that. I can't even tell you. So apparently it's like delayed. I don't really know why. Apparently it's for maybe updates, but the Godzilla and the Ichiban Kasuga DLCs are pretty much extended. They're coming back. That's awesome. Now I always knew the Godzilla one probably would have returned. Definitely would have been a timed one. Maybe try to coincide with one of the previous Godzilla releases. But I knew it would come back, which I'm really happy about. That's so awesome. So anybody who hasn't checked out Dave the Diver, if you love fishing games, it's like one of the best ones there. It's really just the one that I keep going back to and playing all the time, even though I haven't really got a chance to get to the Ichiban DLC, but I'm trying my best, really. So I'm excited. The Into the Jungle DLC is going to be a real perfect way to get back into the content for that game. I just don't know how to start the Ichiban content, so maybe I got to look it up or something. But I think I'm on like the epilogue stuff. We beat the final boss, yeah. So really, vacation time. I think everybody should go and enjoy it while you can, just because I think that it's sunny and bright out for most people in the world, wherever you are. Even if you're in a snowy place, go out and enjoy the snow. Make an igloo. If you're in like a jungle, go and enjoy some jungle animals if they're not gonna eat you, or fruit that won't kill you, or I just think that we should really try to enjoy the earth while we can with what it has. we don't get a lot of ways to preserve it. At least right now, I hope that we have a lot of better ways to do that. So, a small topic that I did want to talk about here, because I've been playing some emulated games here on the podcast, some emulated games on my phone, some Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy Tactics. So I totally endorse emulating if the versions of these games are just unbuyable to the general public. Now, I understand going to like your local game store, your local video game trade-in store, right? Your secondhand third-party store, not a GameStop, Best Buy, right? The ones that sell the SNES, the Genesis, Game Boy, the Retro Boys, all the little stuff, everything. The stores that are keeping the hobby alive, really. That's not just specifically online. Like, sure, you can buy them online if you want. And getting a console is just a different story. I'm not really on the upkeep with how difficult it is to find certain consoles these days. I keep my consoles relatively clean for the most part. My older ones, it's pretty good. It works out pretty well. Now, emulating games, I totally endorse it. I totally find it fine if the games aren't able to be buyable, easily for the public. And I feel like, going to your store, your retro game store is a really, really good way to go and do that. Keep a, secondhand store alive, a decent, maybe mom and pop's family business. I know a few of them. Maybe we'll try and get them on the podcast at some point. I've been pretty slow, lackadaisical on the whole front. So we're gonna have to try and kick it up a notch. Really, we're gonna have to try and do better. So what's gonna happen is I've been emulating games all my life. I've been emulating video games since middle school. Since I had like an iPhone, I never really had a computer to really do it. I fiddled with how to do it, just getting them onto my phone from the computer. But typically, I play with them on my phone as a kid, and it was pretty good. Middle school, high school, and I did Pokemon ROMs. You could get a few Mario ROMs, and then all the mostly Game Boy, SNES stuff, the 8 and 64-bit kind of stuff really ran well. And now you can get shit like the PSP and the N64, PS2. I swear it probably won't be long until we're running Xbox 360 games on our phones and PS3 games and all that kind of stuff. And I totally endorse it. I just think that if you can't buy the game, if you can't give the license company proper money for a version of the game, digital or physical or not, go and emulate it. Go download a file of it. Go to a trusted website. I'm not going to list any of them just because I don't want to get sued. But I definitely think that it's worth going out of your way and getting some of those ROMs down. I have a few Pokemon ROMs. I have all kinds of PS2 ROMs of games that I love just on like USB drives, and I think that's really worth it for a lot of people. They're having easy available access to those games. Especially when I bought some of these games, a good portion of these games throughout my life from GameStops, Kmart's, Kohl's, even when they sold games, right? Retro game stores, just specifically. I have all kinds of receipts from these games, and it's just like I could just burn them, right? Isn't that still a thing, right? I had neighbors who would just burn emulated. You just burn games from like the PS2 Blockbuster rental stuff. They would rent games from Blockbuster and just burn them onto their computer and have them on disc and just write what the game was. They had like a whole bunch of Sonic games because the kid loved Sonic. That was awesome, right? So I just love that. So I don't think that property ownership, license ownership, or anything like that should be, I think it should be better for games. I think it's got to be better for games for a lot of I guess companies, right? I guess the live service games is really where we're getting into it. I know the Crew is a big one. I love the Crew 1. I did. We talked about this a little bit on the podcast. It's just sad to see a lot of these games go. I would be really sad to see a lot of live service games go, like Marvel Rivals, right? I was telling the person we had the interview with, Paul, that I would really hate to see Marvel Rivals just go away as a live service game because I love Marvel. I love video games. I love the game. I'd love to see that where it would be in 10 years, and I don't want to see it be squashed in like 3. Player count or, sales be damned. I think that they could do a lot better with their game if they put out some real effort. And yeah, there's a lot of games out there. There's a lot of games out there. You got to be really picky, choosy with when you put your games out, right? It's very difficult. There's a lot of contention with like when GTA 6 is going to come out and when games are going to come out around then. And companies like Nintendo don't give a fuck. They know they're going to make their money no matter what comes out when, right? Half their audience is like 30-year-olds, half their audience is 6-year-olds with 30-year-old money, right? Like their parents have that money. So like that's literally what it is. It's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, I love emulating. I love emulating. I'll be doing it forever. Final Fantasy all the time. Yeah, there's remastered classics, but you know what? I look on the Switch and the remastered classics like $70 for what is it? Final Fantasy 1 to like 6? Nah. $70 for 1 to 6? Nah. And honestly, I do think it's like, to be honest, more. I think 7, 8, and 9 are there in that collection. $70 for 9 games that are realistically 30 years old. 6 of them so old you definitely need a walkthrough for, unless you really want to spend like a hell of a lot of time, right? Not that I think that everybody needs to use walkthroughs for games. Right? Every game needs walkthroughs, but I think that a lot of games back then didn't count for your time at the very least, and that counts now. And you just kind of gotta go with the flow. If you're stuck, you're stuck. That's really just how it is. It's getting pretty hot here. We're outside in the sun, right? So yeah, it's hot. We're watching the waves. Just hoping to get into the water, but lifeguard shenanigans. We got about an hour. Maybe we'll do a walk or something. But more podcast stuff here. So yeah, emulating. It's crazy. I think that if the hardware is like obsolete and the physical copies are obsolete to buy, yeah, digital options are the way to go. And definitely ROMs and emulating is how that's got to be. I think that's really just really how to be. I don't know where to go from here, but I've been emulating games forever. I know a lot of websites get shut down. I know a lot of websites get like sued and stuff. But right, if you're not putting those games on your stores, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. And I know a lot of games will be remastered. There are a lot of games that put on more modern consoles, PS5, Switch, PC. I know. It's crazy. So like, yeah, if the game is out there and you can buy it, I totally support that too, because there's people with jobs. There's people that have put their heart and soul into a lot of these games. So I know a lot of companies, even developers, have maybe even said things like, culture shouldn't be, locked by money or anything like that. I totally believe that. And I totally believe that we should also support people when we can. All that kind of stuff. If I could support small indie devs, I will. If I could support decent companies that I don't mind, that put out good products that I enjoy, Capcom, Square Enix, right? Team Cherry, where are you at? I think that a lot of these companies really haven't fumbled. I think a lot of companies have really come back from a lot of, hard times, dark times for some of these companies. So I love video games, and I'm sad that video game franchises and things like that are tied to brands or company images, people, things like that. I don't like that, right? I think that we should just enjoy the games as they are. They're testaments to humanity. A lot of the stories are about humanity, and I love that. I love that so much. So, small last bit of news before we get to a real big game I want to talk about here on the podcast. Small bit of news. Magic the Gathering is doing another Universes Beyond video game crossover. Isn't that insane? I think that's awesome. So, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. And so, the price, I looked at them. They don't seem as bad as the Final Fantasy ones. There's not as many cards. I think it's about the same, maybe a little more than like Street Fighter. It has a few characters. It has some like instant and like action stuff. No lands, and then it has like some equipment stuff, but no lands. I'm surprised. I was really hoping to see some lands, so maybe we're going to see them in a later preview. I want to see those lands. I want to see a Green Hill Zone green. I want to see like an Eggman black. Probably, right? I think a black would probably be like an Eggman arcade retro floating island moon base thing, right? Black. And underwater anything, right? It has to be with the sound, with the little right, the fast pinging sound. I haven't played a Sonic game in so long, right? Since like Sonic Frontiers. I think so, like Sonic Colors, right? We played Sonic Colors. Yeah, that wasn't really good. Like Sonic Frontiers, I don't want to refinish. No DLC. But yeah, it's insane. So Sonic the Hedgehog will be coming to Magic the Gathering, and the prices aren't too bad. They're like 20, 30, or $40 per bundle, and sort of singles will be like a different price. Maybe we'll do an unboxing. We're gonna try and see. There's gonna be a pre-order, so who can say what's gonna happen? I totally even flubbed the Final Fantasy one. Forgot what the day was. It was like early in the morning too. There was no way. I was supposed to be like an hour. Nah, I think it was like a Tuesday, so we weren't gonna do that. But we did the unboxing 2 episodes ago. Episode 89 or so, I think. This is episode like 91 for the podcast. We're getting on to 100 soon. We're going to be doing a live episode probably for the podcast, at the very least Twitch and YouTube, maybe Kick and some other places. But we're gonna see what's gonna happen. And Magic the Gathering, Dave the Diver, those are the big kind of major game news that I really want to cover. Not really big game announcements. I kind of try to just keep up on bigger game announcements, watch some of the trailers, but nothing's really caught my eye. There's been a few fishing games that really have been looking really good. I know there's a big action one that seems awesome. I think there's a horror one too that was just shown off. So I'm going to be trying to keep up with those fishing games. Probably when Dave the Diver finally deleted off my PS5, but it's told me we're getting a DLC, so I only got time and room in my life for one fishing game at a time. I can't be playing all of them because we're on the beach right now. And no, I'm not talking about Wildwood. If you've been keeping up, I'm not talking about Wildwood. I'm really not. I'm talking about Death Stranding 2. A lot of contention with this game. I don't think, the game is. I've saw something like the game could be Game of the Year. Now listen, I understand the game could be Game of the Year. I haven't finished it. I beat my first boss. I beat the big BT skull. I did the combat. The combat's actually really great. Compared to the first game, I find it a lot more fluid. I like it. And it's gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. And it was a little frustrating. So I'm on Brutal. The game started me on Brutal. I don't know why. It just thought of me as that good. It just, put me on Brutal as the most difficult option there for the difficulty. Maybe that's because I played the game previously, got the director's cut, still downloaded on the PS5. So who could say? But yeah, I'm very, very, very humbled by that fact that it thinks that I could do the game on Brutal. But I did beat a boss, right? You do the first two like real BT missions. You get some bandit camps in between with these stuff, and I'm liking it. It's really good. Now, I feel like the game has so much more in store. I feel like this is just the tutorial recap, right? The refresher, right? If you played like God of War Ragnarok, you know what I'm talking about with the combat. It's like you just get readjusted to it, and then it's like, all right, here's the new shit. So who could say what's going to happen next, right? We got blood grenades, we got the blood bullets, everything seems there, new and improved. Repair, anti-fall, little tent camp things, right? Anti-timefall machines. So cool. It's awesome seeing Norman Reedus and Lou again. It's awesome seeing Guillermo del Toro, and I'm excited to see what other crossover character cameos that we see that's going to be within Death Stranding. I know that Hideo Kojima's been a big popular guy recently, especially with a lot of games coming out very recently or coming out soon. Cough, cough. His own games being remastered. So, yeah, it's definitely been fun playing Death Stranding here on a vacation. It's been pretty nice. I'm very lucky to be able to do that, right? To be able to play a very new game that I paid half price for because of PlayStation, price points, whatever, right? Their price point system that I'm surprised is still a thing. I kind of thought they were getting rid of that. I could have sworn we talked about it in the podcast. I will have to double check on that, but I really could have sworn that we did. If they did, leave a comment, refresh me if I might forget, but definitely I think that they did say that they're going to get rid of the point reward system at some point. So yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I got half price for Death Stranding 2. That's crazy. And we've been playing it here on the beach vacation. Very, very privileged to be doing that. I'm loving that. There's a lot of privilege with that, to be able to play these new games. It's just, my favorite thing. I get to do that, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things is playing new games, experiencing them. One of my favorite things to do in Death Stranding is just hold L1 and go into the scan mode, and you're in first person, and you're looking at the gorgeous view while like the song plays, and you get like the title screen. Like the game is like a movie, right? And I don't think not every game has to be like a movie, but I think that if we're gonna make experiences for some games, the cinematic experience is the way to go for larger audiences. Sony's been killing at that, and yeah, some games maybe don't need that. Some games maybe don't deserve it. Some games fucking kill it, and the people that put their work into it that fucking kill it. So I find that art form fucking gorgeous. And yeah, Death Stranding 2, I'm having a blast. I'm having a real blast with it. It's, Amazon delivery driver of post-apocalypticness, right? It's Fallout New Vegas, but with like real courier system, right? I love it. It was fun the first time. I wish I got to put in more time with the director's cut, but I think we had like Yakuza or something come out at some time when the director's cut was put on PS Plus, right? It's crazy, but yeah, very very privileged to be playing Death Stranding 2. It's a fun game, and we even got to do the very first Metal Gear Solid games. I mean, I just played a handful of them, right? Metal Gear, like maybe 4 and 5 at friends' houses, right? And I rented 3 and maybe 2 or so on the PS2 or so. And yeah, I never knew there was like an Ape Escape level, or maybe I just blocked it out watching like the YouTube montages of secret levels and shit. And I was like, I didn't know, right? But it's crazy. It's just been fun. We're gonna try and finish Twin Snakes, right? It's Twin Snakes, and that's on the Classic Collection Volume 1. Waiting for Volume 2, right? If they put out Volume 2 with Metal Gear Solid 4, I'll buy it, and I won't emulate Metal Gear Solid 4. I won't even go the bother of trying to find a working PS3 emulator. I won't even download MGS4. No. Like, I want to play a legitimate copy of it. Like, even if it's a remaster or port or something, I want to play a legit licensed version of it rather than like a janky emulator on like a phone or on a PC. I just don't want to do that. Yeah, the podcast emulating. I don't know. I'm gonna keep trying to talk about that here. I'm just gonna maybe keep that spark because I don't want to see a lot of these games die. I don't want to. There's movements out there, right? There's been a lot of talk about it with don't let games die or stop games dying or something like that. There's been talk about it and people talking about it, whether or not emulation needs to be happening or continuing licensed service, or I don't know. People switched it around with saying that like multiplayer games should be worked around being single player games. I'm like, yeah, that experience sounds really difficult and annoying to do. I would hate to try and play a single player experience of World of Warcraft, or maybe even to the extent of like Final Fantasy 14 or some other, online games. Not every game needs to be online. Not every game needs to be single player. It's not true. I think that, there's a middle ground for a lot of things. Who cares? Video games are whatever. If I want a Last of Us multiplayer and single player, fine. Pac-Man 100 v 100,000, whatever. Yeah, we got Twitch plays Pokemon. That's like one of the coolest MMOs you could fucking get. Yeah, it makes me mad to be like, this is where we are with video games. I'm almost 30. Video games are Pokemon. I'm still playing Mario on my phone. We've been playing Pokemon Go, right? We've been playing Pokemon Go here for the podcast. It's been nice. Here on vacation with Pokemon Go. You guys believe that you got to pay for incubators? You got to pay for raids. It's part of like their battle pass or currency system. I fucking hate that. That's disgusting. That makes me want to delete the app. I don't play it as much because I don't want to deal with it. I don't have incubators. I don't have incubators for all my eggs, which is not a big deal, but they break or whatever. Yeah, it's fine. These video games, I want to take your time and your money all at the same time. It's good. It's good that we're here. That's sarcasm. That is sarcasm. Yeah, it is nice out. It is really good. I'm glad to be recording here on the podcast. It's been really fun. I'm glad to do that. Death Stranding 2. It's been really great. Elden Ring Night Rain. We have about 5 of the bosses done. We still got to do the fucking Libra and then like the last 2 guys. That's basically it. And I think right now, maybe if I go on there, the big new boss is there, the upgraded horse dude. I didn't beat the original, but yeah, we got to do that. So Elden Ring, yeah, there's a single player Elden Ring. Go play Elden Ring Night Rain. To some extent, it's a single player and a multiplayer game. Go out and play those. Totally worth it. And definitely going to try and continue with Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, I chose to do the emulator for Final Fantasy Tactics just because I don't want to wait for the remaster. And I wanted to play the original, but I wanted to really do the upgraded class system for War of the Lions. Because War of the Lions was the first one I played on PSP. Rented that at GameStop. Sick as hell. I also played like Final Fantasy Dissidia. Rented that at GameStop. Never played Dissidia 2. Maybe we should do that. Yeah, the podcast here is just about playing and experiencing games one at a time, getting through the ones that come out, old games. We're going to try and focus on new games. A little bit of new games and old games. I think that old games is really what's going to be what we're going to do. Donkey Kong, that's new. I know we're going to get Donkey Kong. That's coming out in July. That's going to be sick. And for video games, that's really just it, right? Donkey Kong, I think this last new game we're even going to, specifically bother with. Now, we have other things that video games talk about. There's not a whole lot of other things in the world that I enjoy. I think video games are really one of the coolest things you can do. It allows a lot of people to experience things in the world that they can. I think that's great. I don't want to be a soccer player, but if I do, I can play FIFA, right? I don't want to be a soldier, but if I do, I can be a Call of Duty Medal of Honor soldier, right? I can do that. Now, we also read books. I try to read as often as I can. I try to really do that whenever I can. And what we have is Kurt Vonnegut's Sirens of Titans. Now, this is a book that I despised in high school. Despised. I still haven't finished it. I still haven't finished it. Tried to start it in work, and we just haven't done it. Just haven't been able to do it. What I disliked about it was, I guess, maybe back then, sophomore year of high school. I feel like it's sophomore, junior year of high school. It did not click. It did not click. Now, it's a sci-fi book, which is surprising, very surprising. I remember there being like teleportation and people living on like, I want to say it's like America and then Mars, right? They go to like Boston and Mars or something like that. But I want to give it another shot. So we're going to try and read it a little bit more here on the podcast, get into it, talk about it later on the podcast, because it's a book from, a few years back, and I never saw the ending to it. I don't think I ever did, but we're definitely going to give it a try, because it's definitely before when I liked books. That's definitely what I feel like, right? If you've been on the podcast for a while, probably mentioned it, I got into books for a girl. It's just, to be honest, it's not the girl I'm dating, but it was for a girl. Dragon Age. It was Dragon Age books. We talk about Veilguard, right? We talk about those forever. So then I started reading Mass Effect books, Star Wars books, and then what really clicked, Catcher in the Rye, Death of a Salesman, reading those in school, Lord of the Flies, and then I branched out into Stephen King, and then it was it. It was over, and I'm a bookhead. So I'm pretty determined to try and get to the end of Kurt Vonnegut's Sirens of Titans. That's definitely what I'm going to try and do. Pretty excited for that. It's going to be the wave. Pretty low on the comic scene, right? We're not reading many comics here on my phone. I'm trying to keep off reading on the phone besides what we're going to talk about next, but there's absolute DC that we're pretty behind on. I'm definitely glad we're going to have some binge material later on. Maybe some volumes we can pick up in store at a local comic shop whenever the print comes out. Try to keep away from spoilers, but if you guys want to go read them, go read them. I got episodes we talk about them. I know they're good. I know they're going to be good. We read pretty much everything that came out, besides I think maybe Justice League is out and Green Arrow, if they do Green Arrow, or Green Lantern. I think we didn't read Green Lantern. That was pretty much the only one we didn't start. But Flash, like 1 and 2, we did. Batman, like 1 through 6, I'm 100% sure we did. Superman 1 through 5, and my favorite, Wonder Woman Wonder Woman, yeah, sick. So maybe we'll try and catch up on those in the podcast here on the vacation, for the next episode, because it's supposed to rain, maybe a little bit today, potentially a little bit later this week, but hopefully not the whole time. There is a convention. There is a convention here, a trading collectibles convention here at Wildwood, which is crazy. So we'll be checking that out. Sick. Talk about that later, next episode. Now, manga. We've been talking about manga here for years, and something we try to keep up on consistently are two mangas. One of them is Berserk. We just had chapter 382, which I cannot believe that they locked Guts up in there, which is wild. They put Guts in there like it was nothing. They put Guts in the little tree cave thing. This is probably like his Yoda, Darth Vader, Dagobah cave test. Probably going to fight off against the Dark Mark, make it not so evil. Able to track him consistently, constantly, the whole damn time. That's insane. It's going to be insane. That's what I'm excited for. So, the party is moving. We got the Kassan Empire helping them. I'm excited. Berserk has been one of my favorites here. Another manga that we try to keep up on is Vinland Saga. That one's ending. The last chapter should be soon. I think it's July. I believe it's July. 220 is the last one. Very, very sad. Very, very sad. So I will try to get a whole entire collection of that one, because it is over. And it's one of my favorites. The ones that are testament to humanity or the movements of the earth, I would love to get a physical one of that. But I think maybe we'll get another one of that maybe in the future. Just not in our lifetime. But I think someone's going to make a manga about more space stuff, which is going to be sick as fuck. Yeah. One Piece, 1153. We have Loki's birth and his curse, right? Apparently, Loki's birth is very contentious. He's been at it lately. Yeah, we got his backstory, and it's pretty sad. The description of his birth, just overall. But I think we're going to get a little more tears later on. It's going to be a little sadder. We love One Piece here, man. You know what's crazy? Here at Wildwood, all the anime statue stores, that is new. I think maybe I would have saw one if it was 2019. But now there's a whole bunch. There's rows of them here. That's crazy. But yeah, something else for the podcast we're probably going to try and do is see 28 years later, right? We actually did watch 28 Days and Weeks here on the podcast. We watched it last week, just on, what was it? Not Peacock, Pluto, and then Hulu. We watched Days on Peacock or Pluto, Days on Pluto, and Weeks on Hulu, which was nice. Really, really enjoyed those movies. Forgot how entertaining those fucking movies were. It's crazy how good they were. All the still shots of just, a few scenery. Second one, a lot more action intensified, right? Which was maybe not everybody's favorite, but loved it. Go and watch 28 years later in theaters. I'm probably going to try and do that. Maybe at some point. I would love to maybe just, buy it here for $20, not go to a theater on my vacation. And then talk about it on the podcast as soon as we get home. That'd be really nice. But who could say? Who can really say? But I'm excited for that. So, yeah, we'll just, about 30 minutes in. Maybe I'll get some read time before we do some waves, catch some water. But I really enjoy you guys coming out, listening to the podcast. Those of you who follow along. If you have a Beats, go to it. Go to the Beats. That's my homework for you guys, whether or not you're playing Death Stranding 2, or you got a Beats near you, or you're playing a game like Dave the Diver, a fishing game, or anything like that. I think you guys should go and experience the world, whether it's outside touching grass or playing code on a video game console. I think it's all life. I think it's all experiences, and you only get one. So that's really all I got to say. I hope you guys stay safe out there. Peace.